Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Okay, everybody's awake. That's good. It's a great pleasure to be back here in Singapore. This is our second year of bringing TM Forum live to Singapore, and it's fantastic to see so many familiar faces and many new faces as well. And we started coming to Singapore as an opportunity to bring together our very diverse membership from this region, not just because we want to bring those companies together, but because this is one of the most exciting regions in the world. TM Forum serves over 800 member companies and almost 100,000 member professionals within those companies all around the globe. And it's here in Asia that we see a real determination to progress and push forward with this thing we call digital transformation. And that's what I'm going to speak to you about here this morning. But before we do that, let's just take a little look backwards for a moment at where we've come from. We are coming out of what I think will go down in history as one of the most remarkable moments in human evolution. We as an industry have connected the world, and it's been principally through these combination of three factors: massive and very exciting evolution in mobile technology, combined with an unprecedented wave of innovation in consumer devices and electronics, combined with an ability to operationalize that through sophisticated IT at massive scale. And through that, we have connected the world. We have changed the way we as human beings work together, how we communicate, and we're starting to change a lot of the world around us. And it's really only the beginning of a revolution that we're only just starting to really understand. So we can feel quite proud of this. We've been through 4 generations of mobile technology, and now we're doing what we know how to do best, which is working on another generation. The challenge is this: we are at the same time seeing the services that have been so profitable for us and have underpinned so much growth commoditizing. We're seeing our share of this hyperscale market that we have created shrinking, and we're seeing it increasingly challenging to stay profitable in that market. And the question on a lot of the minds of companies and boards that we work with around the world is, where's the next wave of growth going to come from, and how do I transform to seize that growth? We are struggling to understand how we cope with matching our level of investment in resources and development, and really understanding how we innovate with new technologies when we have enabled hyperscale internet companies to do that at a scale that we can only start to comprehend. The telecom industry globally accounts for about 1.6% of all investment in R&D. The hyperscale internet industries and compute industries account for about 23%. So if we're at 1% versus 23%, and then that 1.6% is split across hundreds of different companies, we've all got a tiny slice that we're trying to innovate within. So is it any wonder that we're struggling to understand where we drive the innovation from? But it's not all bad news. We are, if you like, entering a phase of reimagining the industry and what we can do. And as we start to think about the role of new technologies and the opportunity with 5G, there's a lot of very impressive numbers being attached to it. We can see over $500 billion in additional revenues from new kinds of services. We can see a 20% upside on our current revenue trajectory through these kind of services. But seizing them requires a lot more than doing what we did in the last 4 generations. Seizing them requires us to embrace a true business transformation and a transformation of our role in the industry. This diagram you've seen, I'm sure, before when people are talking about 5G, and a lot of companies have been convinced to start investing huge amounts of money in 5G on the basis of all of these wonderful things we'll be able to do. We'll have connected cars, we will have autonomous machinery, we will have smart cities. It will change the very fabric of the world around us in a very positive way. And there's a lot of positive impacts we can see from that. The challenge is that the trajectory we're on right now as an industry is only transforming again at the technology layer. It is not yet embracing the true level of transformation that needs to happen at a business layer to seize those. Think about how you're going to work if you want to be more than just a connectivity provider into a city. you've got to understand how to partner with that city, to work with them, to understand their needs at a much deeper level. And that requires a very different agility in your business to move quickly and respond to customer needs. So it's starting to challenge the very way in which our companies work and how we operate today. So the industry, in response to that, understands this. We're an industry full of extremely smart people. We've created this revolution, after all. But we've labeled this change with this rather ambiguous word of digital. And what does it really mean? As we work with hundreds of companies around the world, and I speak to many different CIOs, we see two distinct paths of transformation in play. The first one looks like this. It is the digitization of our own industry. This transition from a traditional service provider, a lot of manual processes, a lot of inefficiencies built in because of the way our industry has grown so quickly, trying to become a lot more digital. We're consuming digital ourselves. We're trying to radically change the efficiency of our businesses and serve our customers better in the process. And this is an essential transformation. But it's not a path to growth. It's not a path to seizing that $600 billion opportunity, and it's not a path on its own to seeing the kind of impact that we want to have in the next wave of digital. That requires us to embrace a different ambition, to go beyond just being a more digital version of ourselves and to say the next role for this industry is to be a true partner to other industries, to help all of those other industries we saw on the previous slide, like healthcare, manufacturing, cities around us. Helping them to digitize requires us to be a true partner, not just a provider of connectivity. So we can think about the challenges we have as our very own industry innovator's dilemma. On one hand, we are continuing to look at the red oceans around us. How do we, as an industry, survive in an increasingly commoditized and competitive market? And inevitably, so much of our focus is on each quarter's earnings and on each quarter's results, and so we get pulled in further and further into that innovator's dilemma. If you're so focused on that, how do you start to look in some of the blue ocean opportunities that we can see in 5G ecosystems? And this is the biggest challenge for our industry, is to escape being pulled further and further into just the existing battlegrounds that remain important and are ones we must stay competitive in, but at the same time to seize those new opportunities. We believe in TM Forum that requires a lot more than just another wave of new technology. Monetizing and profiting in a 5G era is going to be about really transforming the agility of our businesses. If we think about agility as a bit like fitness for us as human beings, it's how quickly can we move? How quickly can we respond to a customer need or to a market shift or a competitive move? How quickly can we seize that and turn that into something that actually has change? And if we're honest with ourselves today as an industry, we are just simply too slow. It takes us too long through our culture, through the way that we work within our companies, through the way we manage and think about the role of IT and operations to make those changes. And that's what we need to change. So this next generation, this next ring of the circle, is well on track from the perspective of dealing with the mobile technology challenges. We know what we're doing there. There's a lot of work to be done, but it's progressing well. And we're getting a clearer picture of who we're going to serve. It's no longer just a shiny handset in your hand or a faster mobile connection. It is connectivity into every single device. Everything that can be digitized will be, and everything that needs to remain physical in the world around us will be connected. We will see streams of data coming from those devices. So it's no longer just about the next sexy handset. It's about actually embedding this capability into the world around us. That's well understood. The piece that's not well understood, and the key, I believe, to monetizing this and to really succeeding in playing a role as an industry beyond just connectivity, is the piece at the bottom. And if we're honest, over the last decade, IT and operations haven't had a clear target. We haven't been clear on what the next generation of that needs to look like. There's no similar bar for IT and operations to that we have for 5G from a mobile and radio perspective. We need to set a new bar, and that's exactly what the TM Forum is going to be doing over the next year with something we call our open digital architecture, building on the suite of APIs that you'll hear a lot about over the next 2 days, and you can see a lot about out on the show floor, our Catalyst demonstrations. and building those into a very clear new vision of where OSS and BSS systems and the way in which we approach operations in our businesses needs to move to. That is underpinned by a fundamental rethink of the role of IT in our businesses. The majority of companies in the industry, in fact, the majority of established companies in the world, still manage IT in what I call a 20th century mindset. We look at IT as this internal provider, and what do you do with your providers or your suppliers? You try and manage them within a certain cost budget. You don't think of them as partners. So we're managing IT within typically 5% of our OPEX. The whole reason we have IT, though, is to transform the rest of the business. It should be to automate and speed up the way in which we can actually operate our businesses. So we need to shift that mindset to saying, not how much have we managed to constrain IT spending within, which doesn't tell you all that much about the actual impact, but what is the impact on the rest of the business? What are we managing to save, improve, speed up, change in terms of customer experience through that? And it's fantastic to see within the TM Forum a number of companies that are starting to really embrace this. It also means a big change in leadership. We see that at every level with digital. It's this shift from the traditional CIO to an evolution over the last few years towards a combination of network and IT coming together. But still we see them often with one leader and then two siloed teams under them. The network will become a software entity, and it has to be something that works closely in partnership with IT. But it means a very different role for our technology leaders as well. It's no longer about being the smartest technologist. It's about understanding how that technology can play a meaningful role in the business. And that makes the role for CIOs and CTIOs very complex, because they're having to understand the application of technology, but they're having to play this integration role that goes well beyond technology. Integration with partners, integration of business, integration with ecosystem collaborators. This role becomes the chief of intelligence in the business, the data of what's actually happening in the business and the ecosystem around us, and ensuring that we can deliver the right quality of service and integrity as a business as we go forward. It's a marked shift that starts with the leadership of these functions, but it affects all of us who work in those functions as well. Now, that's only one aspect of the transformation, the IT and operational piece. There's many other aspects as well, and TM Forum has surveyed over 200 executives across the industry about not only what do they think digital transformation means, but what are the challenges to doing so. And we end up with this set of all kinds of different issues, ranging from issues that we, as an industry, frankly can't change. We're not overnight going to change the regulatory challenges or some of the challenges for us as individual businesses in the way that our shareholders want us to operate. But there's a lot we can change. The challenge we see is that a lot of that change today is happening in the same way it's happened before, and in some cases making the same mistakes that have been made before, which is a siloed approach to transformation. If you really want to seize the opportunities we're talking about here, it's a fundamental transformation of the entire business. And to do that means it can't be done in individual silos. The first wave of what a lot of people call digital transformation revolved around being able to interface with your customers through social channels or more digital channels, or to strive towards an omni-channel experience. And it's often been put at the doorstep of the CIO to head up a transformation in the first phase. But the era we're entering into now requires holistic business transformation, and to do that requires a really clear ambition and clear change that's coordinated behind that. And it's somewhat alarming from the research that we've done that despite the industry feeling quite optimistic about where we're going, the range of ambition ranges all over that chart, from just being a more digital version of ourselves to being a true digital partner. What we do know is that whatever your ambition is, the scale of change required is dramatic. We are not talking about 10% incremental improvement over the next few years. You've got to change the game. You've got to think radically differently about how your business operates. You've got to think radically differently about how you interact with your customer, how you partner with others. The culture of the business needs to change. So, all nice analysis, you may say. What is an organization and an industry association like TM Forum going to do about that? Well, I'm pleased to share with you this morning our key focus for 2018 and where we're going to be focusing on delivering this transformation and bringing the industry together to accelerate that transformation. Because it's time to transform ourselves way beyond the products and services we offer into the role we play in these digital ecosystems today. We're setting our focus on three key areas. The first is helping to navigate this complex transformation. And for that, we have our digital maturity model and a set of trackers that help the industry to understand how you actually drive a coordinated transformation across the business. Second, and in the near term, the most crucial factor, regardless of your digital ambition, and regardless of where you want to take your company to, is getting this agility into the business. The ability to move at the pace of the market around you. The ability to move at the speed of digital native businesses that we've all come to admire. This is crucial to being competitive, and it requires us to fundamentally rethink the role of IT in the business, the way operations work, our business processes, our culture, and so many aspects as well. And finally, where is that taking us to? That agility isn't just for the sake of it. We're moving into a world where we are a digital partner in these different ecosystems that are emerging, whether that be looking at an extension of connectivity into supplying IoT devices, or a much more ambitious role in terms of actually being the curator or orchestrator of a different digital ecosystem. These ecosystems will be highly complex. They will involve tens, if not hundreds, of partners in an industry such as healthcare to digitalize those. And we have to understand how to manage the complexity of those ecosystems at scale. And that's an area where the TM Forum, with its expertise of doing that within the industry and within individual companies, we're going to take that expertise and continue to evolve it into managing these complex ecosystems. So across those three themes, we have a whole set of different pieces of work we'll be doing, starting with the maturity model and benchmark, and trackers I've talked about, through to embracing new game-changing technologies such as AI, and hopefully many of you were in our AI track yesterday where we heard the scale of the challenge of companies like Amazon with 1,200 people working on AI, with Amazon now sitting at the largest R&D budget out of the top companies in the world. How do we as an industry collaborate to compete with that, or at least to be able to partner with companies like Amazon efficiently? That requires us to think differently. We're going to be continuing our work in Smart City and helping the telecom industry to play a meaningful role beyond just connectivity into those markets, and looking at the challenges of how you assure the right quality of services, and doing that through catalyst projects such as the ones you'll see out during the coffee break. But at the heart of that is a key piece of work around this digital agility agenda, which we put under the heading of simplification, automation, and intelligence. And I'll just tell you a little more about that for just a moment. The whole piece is predicated on this shift of the role of IT to driving the simplification of the business processes, simplification of the product portfolios in our business, simplification of the technology and operations within our businesses to transform the way that we work. And through that, enabling a level of automation we've only dreamt of before. We must target zero-touch operations. We shouldn't have any human being involved in day-to-day operations of the business. We should be targeting that in a meaningful way. It seems like a pipe dream for many of us today, but this is the kind of automation that we need just to move at the right pace. And a lot of that will be driven by having a different approach to the intelligence in our businesses, getting away from stovepipe knowledge and information in systems and people, and embracing technologies such as artificial intelligence that will help us to really change the game. To do that means rethinking the way we approach the systems that we've put in place to operate some of those parts of our business today, what we've traditionally thought of as separate OSS and BSS systems. When I said earlier that we're still operating in a mindset that's 20 or 30 years old, I wasn't kidding. We're still thinking about these as separate silos. We've got some great ideas on how they might need to change, but we're not yet moving quickly enough to make that change. How this looks going forward is to break down those silos, to think about those as components of our business that we can string together to deliver whatever service we want to deliver And that requires embracing a common set of open APIs, such as the set that TM Forum's been developing over the last 2 years, and which you'll hear more about over the next 2 days. But it also requires having a very clear picture of what that architecture looks like so that we all know what we're talking about. Right now, whether I talk to service providers or vendors in the market, there's too much confusion about what we're aiming for and how it's going to work. We have to set a clear target. We have to drive towards that aggressively. That can only be done in the way this industry knows how to do that best, which is to collaborate and work together to get to that target. And we have to understand that we're building, of course, on top of a network that will progressively become more virtual. We won't wake up tomorrow to a pure software-defined network. There'll be many years of hybrid, but we're driving towards that target. But perhaps the most fundamental change for us to understand is that that will not be operated by people. It will be operated by an artificial intelligence. That allows us to liberate a lot of our people from doing still very menial. In some cases, we still have people around the world doing swivel chair jobs between systems and very manual tasks. Let's put their intelligence to a bit more use than that by automating a huge amount of that. And through AI, we can get to the kind of speed that we need to compete in the market we're entering into. And of course, these 3 pieces of simplification, automation, and intelligence are building on TM Forum's very rich history and asset base in terms of tools, libraries of frameworks and materials that we're going to reimagine to be fit for this market, but building on years and years of knowledge and intelligence in how we can drive this level of automation and intelligence into our systems. In closing, I'll leave you with one message, which is now is the time for us as an industry to work together on these challenges. Now is the time for us to be very bold, very radical, and to look to really change the game. We have a very limited window of opportunity. If you're not already underway with a real digital transformation, you're already late. You need to speed up, and you need to embrace the scale of change that's needed. But unless we start working together now, drive this transformation of the operations and IT in our businesses, we're going to miss the opportunity, and we are consigned to being a commodity player. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoy the conference. I hope that you'll enjoy and take in not only the speeches and great speakers in this room, but also see some of our collaborative Catalyst projects outside. They're doing some amazing work, and I hope that you'll be working with us in the year to come. Thank you very much.